Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan. Well, hello, everybody out there. Once again, may I welcome you to what is going to be a great show. I guarantee it. My name is W.J. Sheehan, author of the series Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters, all of which are available, 8 volumes, at Amazon in paperback and ebook, and volumes 1 through 7 at Audible for you audiophiles, Amazon and iTunes as well. And I'm pumping my new book, How to Make Money, God's Universal Laws for Wealth and Prosperity. I highly recommend that book if you'd like to wonder why things may not be going your way. And now, without any further ado, may I introduce my brother and co-host, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, Bill?
Fantastic, fantastic. You know, the support coming in via email through our webpage link, BigfootTerrorinthewoods.com, is unbelievable.
Yeah, some great input from the listeners. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and, you know, I was on the phone this morning with a fella, I'm just going to call him Steve. He sent us some photographs, Kev, which we'll spend some time on maybe over the next week or 2 or 3, of some tree structures, outstanding, and the stories behind them are really quite interesting. And
Very
then
cool.
this afternoon, just an hour before we're doing this podcast, I was on the phone with a fellow out in Iowa that visited some axe murder house, spent the night in there, and endured some strange poltergeist activity. I don't know why anybody would want to spend a night in an axe murder house.
I was going to say, sorry, I already booked my summer vacation. Otherwise, I'd ask you for the contact info. That's all I got to do is tell the bride, where are we going? Oh, we're going to go stay in an axe murder house.
Yeah, with no lights and no facilities, honey.
She can put up with me talking to everybody about cryptids and other oddities, but I don't know if she'll stay in an axe murder house.
You know, when he started talking about this place, he immediately came out of the gate, because when people call me, you have to understand, folks, and I do encourage you to contact me. But many times I ask people to call me, and they call randomly during the week at odd times. I can't always talk when they call, but we get together. And I always ask people, so why is it I asked you to call me? Refresh my memory. Because it's impossible for me to know when Kevin from North Carolina calls me what he had contacted me. That's just too many people.
By the way, I was going to say, folks, he doesn't remember why I'm calling him either. That's the Kevin from North Carolina.
Hey, do I know you? So he came out of the gate, beginning with the story of a house where 7 people were killed by an axe murderer. And, you know, the first thing that came to my mind, Kev, was I had either read or been looking into many years ago a story of multiple murders carried out around the country, people who had no apparent connection to the murderer or no reason to be murdered, who were all killed by axe. And the long and short of it was this, I think these were all like in the early 1900s, which is when this man said it occurred, 1912 to be exact. It was believed by some that the individual who was doing this was taking advantage of the railroad. In other words,
and getting around the country.
That's right. And they were dispersed all over the place, and all of the homes where the people were killed were located near a rail station. So the notion came across that perhaps this individual was either a transient, a worker for the railroad, or somebody that was just taking advantage of the railroad to carry out their nefarious deeds. Pretty creepy, huh?
Very creepy.
This serial killer menace has been with us as long as man's been on the planet. I'm convinced of that.
Oh, no doubt about it.
So,
it's also a source of the pure evil. It's interesting. You were talking about the axe murderers back in the early 1900s, and I couldn't help but think of the old Lizzie Borden, right?
Yeah.
Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks, or however it really goes. But that was back in the late 1800s, early 1900s as well.
Right. And that was...
I don't know. I don't think she rode the train.
Yeah, no. She was obviously had a problem, to say the least. But anyway,
I mean, come on, Lizzie, you could just eat your vegetables like the rest of us.
What a freaking... I mean, these people, man, you just got to watch your butt.
No doubt about it.
You never know who's out there, and it could be a Bigfoot. Bigfoot wouldn't use an axe, though. He'd just grab you and rip your head off.
I mean, unless you had an axe in your hand and you threatened him with it.
Right. Then he'd take it from you and use it on you.
Yeah, why not? Again, nothing to do with riding the railroad, as far as we know.
Unbelievable. So what do you got, brother, in our cryptids and other oddities?
We got two stories this week that I want to cover. One just happened this week, but it's short and sweet, and it's in the fun category of cryptids and other oddities. So the headline came out on CBS 4 News in Colorado this week on June 7th, so not that long ago.
Okay.
And the headline is Bigfoot sightings possible along Interstate 70 in Colorado on Monday. Did you see this at all, Bill?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
So I was like, oh, what is this all about? And it's pretty funny. So, and I'm going to put these pictures up on BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com next to this episode 103. But basically, this studio in Ohio manufactured a 7-foot 3-inch mechanical Sasquatch and a small baby Sasquatch. The name of the place is called Unit 70 Studios in Columbus, Ohio. And the owner of a place called the Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey, Colorado, went out there to pick them up, right? And they are super cool looking, Bill. I mean, they really do look like what you might think a Sasquatch would look like if you ran into it.
Kev, can you hear me? By the way, I did see this.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
but when you mentioned the interstate, I was like, no, I didn't see anything. But I did see this, and you are absolutely right. They are very cool looking. Are they animatronic?
Animatronic in some way. It says that they're mechanized. So
Okay.
I didn't see any video of them moving, but they look super cool.
Yeah. All right, so go
you saw how they're moving it, though, right? So they pick it up in Ohio with a pickup truck, and then they got a little flatbed trailer or a big flatbed trailer behind the pickup, and then they have this giant vertical crate made out of like 3/4 inch plywood with windows cut in it, with bars on the windows, and then those big yellow utility straps strapping it down to the trailer. And on the sides, in big red stenciled letters, it says "Warning!" exclamation point. Sasquatch, look inside. Warning, Sasquatch. And it's got these bars on the windows. I mean, can you imagine? It's just fantastic.
Yeah. What a gimmick.
Oh, it's just awesome, though. So, and there's one woman in the story who's in the working in a restaurant, like in a diner, and they pull in, and she sees this whole thing, and she's like, "I've been working here forever, and I was just waiting for one day to have a super interesting day." And she said meeting them was the most interesting day of her 10 years working there.
Now, what was the purpose? I didn't get into what I read and saw. Didn't get into detail about. Was their purpose just to advertise what they were doing, or what were they trying to do? It was just a goof.
I think it was half goof and half advertised. So they do have the URL for their place called SasquatchOutpost.com. But for some reason, when I was preparing for this story, I couldn't get to their website. Maybe it was down. Maybe it was hacked by Russian ransomware people. And they had to give away the juvenile Bigfoot as ransom or something.
Yeah.
But so I think it was they did have to move it, right? What are you going to do? How are you going to get it from Ohio to Colorado? You got to throw it on a trailer. Right. And then I think I give them high marks for creativity. Like, I wish I saw the thing, right? I would have been coming up next to him, blowing the horn, come on, pull over. I got to see this thing. Of course, with a sidearm.
Yeah, animatronic or not, you're going down.
Hey, I don't know what's in there. I mean, it's 3/4-inch plywood. It's not that strong.
Yeah. It was a great idea for, like, publicity, because can you imagine how many heads must have turned seeing the crate and then reading what was stenciled on it?
No doubt about it.
There's probably.
And, I mean, it's on my visit place called the Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey, Bailey, and I think it's awesome. I can't wait to get out there sometime.
Now, so this was built in one location by some guys to bring to this Sasquatch place for display.
Yeah, I think they were, my take is the guys in Ohio, Unit 70 Studios, were contracted by the Sasquatch Outpost to build these things. Uh-huh. And Sasquatch Outpost went and got them, is my take.
So Sasquatch Chronicles. Hello, Wes. The Sasquatch,
not Wes.
Sasquatch Outpost went with the crate to pick up the goods.
Exactly.
Oh, wow, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, because their pickup truck, I'm looking at the picture of their pickup truck hooked to it, and it also says Sasquatch Outpost on the pickup.
Uh-huh. Well, kudos to them, because that is a fantastic stunt at the very least, and I wish I would have seen it. I'm like you, Kev,
Yeah. And the likeness of these creatures, Bill, is fantastic, isn't it? Like they're completely V-shaped. The brownish reddish hair, shoulders look like they're 4 feet wide on the adult one. Yeah, and just supersized. Like even if you stood next to a huge football player, this thing would be much, much bigger.
Yeah, and
which is what all the accounts say, right?
The best thing I like about these, including the giant one that Dr. Meldrum has, when you look at them, it really brings your mind's eye into what we're dealing with here and why these people say, it had to weigh 2,000 pounds, because it is so mammoth.
Exactly.
It's just so menacing and huge that you don't even know. You can't draw on anything in your mind in the moment to measure it, to speak about it. It's like surreal. I mean, I'm even
No,
lacking.
and I think that's the practical aspect of seeing one of these models, you
Yeah.
know, or whatever you want to call it, artistic creations, because you look at it and you're like, that thing's got to weigh 1,000 pounds, you know,
Yeah.
just by the size of it. Like you could see what it must be like, or you can envision what it must be like if you saw this thing in real life. You'd be
Right.
like, oh my goodness, the thing is so thick and wide and V-shaped and no neck and just gigantic.
Yeah, well, you know, I've had a number of people through the years that say it was looking at a barn door. Now, you know, around here, Kev, I haven't seen too many barn doors, but I have seen
You
some.
got a lot of barn doors in your neighborhood.
Yeah, and man, I've never seen a small-looking barn door.
No.
You know, so they're kind of
You gotta get
drawn.
horses. You got to get horses and cows through them typically, and that's pretty big.
Right, or even back a pickup truck into it to, you know, take something off of it or, you know, whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, great stuff, man. So
Yeah, so that's super cool. So I definitely want to go see this museum when I'm out in Colorado, which is a place I get to frequent pretty regularly. So, folks, if you're listening, you will see me out there. All right, and our next story is an account, Bill, that I came across in north central Ohio, which is a bit of a hotbed, right?
oh yeah,
And it was published in a publication called the Richland Source, so Richland, Ohio.
okay,
And this came out on May 20th of this year, so not that long ago.
no,
And the headline is Bigfoot with a question mark. Woman reports Sasquatch encounter outside a gym in Ashland, Ohio.
huh?
Yeah.
Jeez, maybe he was coming there to work out.
Hey, you know that you don't get that big by accident. He's not sitting on the couch
Get off the
pumping some
bench.
iron. I think you've done enough sets. My turn. Lay down. I'll pick you up.
Yeah, I pick things up and I put things down.
Let me do some human curls with you.
Oh my goodness! All right, so let's hear it.
So listen to this. So this woman, 20 years old, walked out of the warehouse 24-hour gym around midnight after completing her workout. She turned to the right and headed to her car in a well-lit parking lot. There were no other vehicles in that lot on the side of the building, and that place, they say, was opened in 2018, for what that's worth.
Uh-huh.
But she was reportedly not alone on this cool, clear spring night.
Wow.
She heard a twig snap. She looked and saw a creature 7 or 8 feet tall, covered in gray fur, racing back into the woods about 30 yards away.
Wow, racing away from her.
Yes.
Wow.
So, like, she startled it when she came out of the gym,
Yeah. That's
which is
interesting.
reasonable at midnight. And it said that her car was the only one out there.
Yeah, and it also shows that these things don't necessarily want anything to do with you. And again, you know, my opinion being it depends which one you meet.
Well, true.
You know,
We've
so
seen
this one hightailed it out of there when he saw her coming.
Yep, absolutely. And she said it was far too large, likely several hundred pounds. Again, these estimates, right, Bill? Like
Right.
she said, it was gigantic, several hundred pounds for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it moved too quickly to be a man, she said.
Wow.
So again, that stride and speed comes into play.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was just, I'm going through some of the accounts over and over again in Volume 9, which hopefully I'll be releasing soon. And one of the guys in there described when he saw this thing running after some elk, by the way. he described it as like that of an Olympic hurdler. It had the appearance of like 30 or 40 mile an hour speed, and he said it looked more like it was gliding than running, that it was off the ground so much during the pursuit.
Wow.
That's pretty bizarre, you know?
Very bizarre.
Yeah.
So, she was shaken, excuse me, and in tears after seeing it, and she called her parents from a nearby restaurant and asked them to come and drive her home.
Wow.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean, she must have ran back inside after that and said, I'm not even going to, you don't know what to do.
You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
See this giant gray furry creature hoofing it off into the woods at midnight.
Boy. Good grief. Talk about fumbling for your keys in the door.
Yeah, I bet if she tried to take some video of it, she would have been shaking too.
No, everybody's steady.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Everybody's rock steady in the heat of the moment.
But pretty awesome little sighting, right, Bill? And it's in north central Ohio, which is definitely a bit of a hotbed.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going around out there, and I encourage all the listeners to contact us. You know, you don't have to be afraid of us, and we relish the contact via our link, BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com. And if you've seen something, say something. I don't care where you are, who you are, if you want to be known, if you don't want to be known. But it is in the sharing of the information that the story and the investigation continues, whatever it is you've seen.
Yeah. And everybody wants to hear these accounts. You know, like if you're there in Ashland, Ohio, you want to know that somebody saw the hairy man outside this gym.
Yeah. Well, we had that guy a couple of weeks ago, Kev, right? That wrote in after he heard the Turner Falls account.
Exactly.
And said that
Oklahoma.
he goes there regularly or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've had numerous people, and you know, Kev, reading the emails that have said, you know, I go to that place. I was there at that lake. I live, you know, my house is, 2 miles away from that location, you know. And that's the way it is, you know.
Yeah, by the way, folks, you know, just looking out for my own tail here, I'm going up to New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. I'm going to be doing a lot of hiking outside, sleeping outside in about a few weeks. So if you know of any creatures up there that you've seen lately, please tell me.
Yeah. And you know what, Kev? Definitely bring some plaster in case you find some anything worthy of casting.
I thought you were going to tell me to bring extra 5.56 and 9mm.
Well, you better have that anyway. If I have to tell you that, you know, I don't know what to say.
Good point.
Yeah,
I'll bring some plaster too.
Yeah, I got a feeling you're going to run across something. I just have a hunch.
All right, I'm going to have to go to the range Monday night, sharpen up again. You got all these like human template targets. They know me at the range because I'm like, you got any Bigfoot targets there? How about a hairy man? You got a hairy man?
How about something that fights back?
Can you make the target speed towards me and growl?
Oh, my goodness, man.
They're like, that KJ is here again.
Yeah, we got to put up with him. You know, really, I don't, Kev, I just don't think that people have any concept of what a close encounter with a Bigfoot may be like when they go out there marching around looking for these things.
No.
And the realist in me tells me, you know, like I've said before, you know, if this thing turns on you, your ass is grass and he's the lawnmower. So
I mean, I would like to see one, but I'd prefer to see one if I was in my truck.
Yeah.
And it was like, a couple of 100 feet away, walking across the road or something like that.
Yeah, well,
that would be my best, sighting of it. But coming around a turn on a trail, 5 miles away from anyone else and seeing the hairy man in front of you that's 8 feet tall and weighs 1,000 pounds. Ugh.
Yeah, well, I have an account in Volume 9 of a policeman whose beat in the year 2000 was up in Washington State. And he had said, of course, like I'm telling you something you don't know, he was riding down a lot of really dark and unlit roads, even going from location to location or looking for stranded travelers, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
He had this Bigfoot. He didn't know it was a Bigfoot initially. He saw something stepping out ahead of him as he was cruising through this woods. He started to break through his high beams on and realized immediately he was looking at the side profile of a giant Sasquatch. He put the brakes on completely, now standing off with the creature with the high beams on. He's alone in the car. And he said the creature never looked at him. It never turned to give him a face shot, but rather stood profile and then walked across the street into the woods. And, when you guys have a chance to pick up Volume 9 when it comes out, you can read the whole Megillah. But he said that it changed his life in such a way that he wished it never happened. And a lot of people have said that. What you think is cool may turn around on you, because he said it kind of loused him up that he's not comfortable doing a lot of the little leisurely things that he used to do.
Sure.
So he saw this.
It's not unlike if you're into surfing or spending a lot of time in the ocean like me, and then if somebody next to you gets attacked by a big shark or something, that would scare the bejesus out of you.
Yeah,
not just then.
Yeah, because what's lurking in there or hidden.
Yeah, well, it's their environment.
Right.
Same
what
thing.
What if?
Yeah.
Wow, that's freaking some crazy stuff.
So we had the entertaining with the Bigfoot in a crate and the creepy with the Bigfoot outside of the Ashland, Ohio gym fitness facility.
Wow, I mean, it just shows you. I don't know what Ashland, Ohio is like, the layout of the land, but there's got to be some forest and woods and whatnot around there.
Oh, yeah. I never heard of it. And in fact, when I first read it, I thought that they were talking about Ashland, Oregon, which I've been to multiple times. So I thought it was Ashland, Oregon, and then I had to read it carefully, and I was like, oh, Ashland, Ohio. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And Oregon, let me say that again. Oregon. Just to annoy, some of our listeners. You know how I like to scooch people when I say Oregon.
Nails on a chalkboard.
Well, let me say this, brother. I have an interesting sighting / encounter here, brought to me by a fellow named Doug Gould, a resident of the state of Illinois. And this is what Doug had to share. In 1979, I received a full scholarship to attend university in West Virginia. At that time in my life, I hadn't even ventured past the borders of Illinois. I was chomping at the bit to taste a little freedom, so I eagerly went to West Virginia for my studies. In my second year, I requested a change in dorm room with a new student who I was sharing my room with, not exactly being the studious type, if you understand where I'm coming from. I was granted my request to move into another dorm with a fellow who'd been staying in a room alone up until that point in time, and it was a match made in heaven. Both of us were very studious, committed to our schedules and studies, and over the course of several months, a bond was formed between us. His name was Charlie Grant, and he was the first of a family of coal miners to attend college. He was working towards a degree in education in the hope of becoming a teacher. As it turns out, Charlie had a fairly good-sized family, all of whom lived within a 100-mile radius of the campus. And it became a regular happening for me to tag along with Charlie when making brief weekend visits to his extended family. It was the third weekend in September of 1979 when Charlie and I went to visit his Uncle Hank, who lived outside of a town called Ridgefield. Uncle Hank was a retired coal miner who was, unfortunately, suffering from what is commonly known as black lung, and wasn't expected to be with us much longer. He was a great guy, nonetheless, and could really spin some incredible yarns when it came to storytelling, and we were all ears. At any rate, on this particular weekend, he told us that a lot of the good old boys were bagging quite a few crows down by the cornfields this time of year, and he asked me if I'd ever done any shooting. Truth be told, I hadn't, but I didn't want to let on, so I said I had done a little, and off we went. Hank grabbed a couple of shotguns out of a closet with a few boxes of shells, and the three of us packed into the front seat of his Ford pickup. I was the lucky one stuck with the shifter between my legs. We made it over to a place called Ridgefield, where Hank parked the truck adjacent to a field of standing corn. He handed us the guns and pointed in the direction that we should go, and that's when I realized that he wasn't going with us. He said that my lungs are much too weak to walk with you guys, but don't worry about me. I'm happy just to wait here for a few hours while you guys go out and have some fun. Charlie gave me a wink, and the two of us began to walk away. We were flanking a field of corn that was standing some 7 to 8 feet tall beside us, and as we walked, we could hear the crows in the field cawing. As of yet, we'd seen none of them. We must have walked for a mile or more, and there was still no sign of crows overhead nor a visible end to the corn on our left. We were approaching a hillside on our right when Charlie suggested that we walk up on the side so we could possibly see from a high point where the best place would be for us to shoot some of these buggers. We sat on the hillside, perched about 100 feet above the cornfield, where we could see crows hopping and flying in and around the standing corn. They were pecking at the ears that were still left on the stalks. Unfortunately, there weren't any newcomers entering the field, and none of the crows that were in there were leaving, in particular in our direction. This field was enormous, and neither of us were too keen on walking around to the other side where there seemed to be some action, so we sat and waited. About an hour into our waiting, we began to see a flurry of activity in the corn at a distance of about 400 yards away from us. There was a lot of cawing going on, with crows taking to the air and dive-bombing something in the field. But we had seen nothing of whatever it was that they were diving on. Charlie had suggested that perhaps a bobcat or some critter was walking through the field that the crows weren't too happy about, and so they were trying their best to scare it off. Up until Charlie saying this, we hadn't seen anything. The corn stalks weren't moving, and the only activity was that of the crows, who were in a complete and utter frenzy over whatever was there. It was then that what I will describe as a large furry figure stood up within the corn and was head and shoulders above it. And I do mean head and shoulders, because that is exactly what we were looking at. A large head sitting on a pair of enormous shoulders now making its way through the corn stalks, with the crows giving chase. This thing, which we both knew was a Bigfoot, was walking through the corn, occasionally swatting at a diving crow, which it seemed that we could tell it was really annoyed by. Where it had come from was an unknown to us. We had been looking rather intently at the very area where we saw it standing, and it wasn't there just moments before us seeing it, which left us wondering. Was it sleeping on the ground within the stalks? Or perhaps it had crawled in, and if so, why? What we did know was that we were watching it, and it was an enormous animal, to say the least. We watched it walking through the stalks for probably over a quarter of a mile. It occasionally stopped and appeared to sample the corn before continuing to walk. There were a couple of moments where either the ground sloped downward or the corn was substantially taller, where the beast momentarily disappeared from our view, only to once again reappear moments later as it continued to walk. We watched it for some 10 minutes until it had apparently exited the field and was gone from sight. When we first saw it at a distance of some 400 yards or so, we estimated the creature's height at being 9 feet or better. This based on the height of the corn when we were walking next to it. I would estimate its shoulder width at being 4 to 5 feet, and its head and shoulders seemed to be one contiguous unit. In other words, there was no visible neck. When we made it back to the truck to face Uncle Hank, having not so much as fired a single round, we told him what we had seen. He shook his head and said quietly, "You fellas saw the hairy man." He couldn't believe it, and quite frankly, neither could we, despite seeing it with our own 2 eyes. He said that these critters had been reported here since white men had settled the area. Some of the old-time miners had spoken of them messing with equipment and the like, but he had never seen one for himself. Even though we hadn't gotten any crows that day, what we did get was a memory to last a lifetime.
The good old hairy man.
Yes, sirree.
The hairy man in West Virginia.
I'm telling you, man. When you least expect it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, of all the things I would have guessed with the crows circling the cornfield like that, I wouldn't have guessed hairy man.
Yeah, and interesting, too, how it apparently stood up from either a seated position, kneeling, or laying down, and then it was visible, whereas it wasn't initially, but the birds knew it was there.
Oh, yeah. Well, they got that aerial view.
Yep. So, kind of cool.
Is awesome.
Yeah, kind of cool, And I see, like, the blue jays on my own property, Kev, when there's a cat walking around. If those blue jays are around, they're the guys who start squawking and doing the aerial reconnaissance above the cat until they can get it out of the property.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, crows too. I mean, maybe not by you, but crows are like that. And then it's like I always hear every morning, I hear the hawks. Like, we got a bunch of red-tailed hawks, and you hear them screeching like they talk to one another when the other birds are coming after them after they raid a nest or whatever.
Yeah, you think they're calling them in for reinforcements?
I think they're calling in an airstrike, if you know what I mean. A little backup. Hey, I'm puffing red smoke. Bring it in.
Unbelievable.
Lay some napalm on us. Nothing like a little napalm.
It's amazing that the old-timer says that some of the men in the mines told tales of these things messing with them. So,
They were all rural, mostly rural folks, right? Working in the mines back then.
And of course where the mines were located.
Exactly.
Some of them old mines, they were just drilling into the sides of mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Up there in West Virginia, Kentucky, a lot of these places.
You can still see the evidence of it when you're up there. And by the way, they're still doing it,
Yeah, So there's no doubt that we were interlopers on their turf.
Sure.
And they probably weren't too happy about the noise and just humans being there,
100%, yeah.
Again, let's fall back to the fact that, man, if you get these guys PO'd, look out, man. Because
they're coming for you.
Yeah, I don't think you want to get a Bigfoot creature too aggravated. It's just an opinion,
Not certain about it. I mean, we haven't done an experiment, but it seems like the data indicates that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Cool. Definitely not something I want to be on the other side of. But, how about the cornfield, Walking through the cornfield, and it said it was head and shoulders above the corn because that's exactly what we were looking at.
Yeah, and corn, of course, depending on the time of the year, is pretty darn tall. I mean, I'm 6'2". It's way over my head.
Yeah. I mean, that's a standing field of corn is really, it's if you go into a real cornfield, you could probably get lost in there pretty easily.
Yeah.
A little different than the Halloween corn maze carved out, I would imagine if you got deep enough into a field of corn and the clouds came to cover the sun, you might be wishing you didn't go in there.
100%. 100%, yeah.
Well, that's it, man. That's a crazy encounter in the cornfield in West Virginia.
That's an awesome encounter, Bill. Think of how scary that is. Like, if you were in the cornfield, like these guys were looking to shoot crows, so they're looking into the cornfield. But picture you walking through the cornfield, right? You can't see anything anyway. You barely know which way you're going. And then all of a sudden you see the hairy man in front of you. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, or hear it.
Yeah, what a nightmare that is, right?
Yeah, or smell it.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Cannot imagine. All right, Bill. Well, we got some great listener mail. A couple of these emails that came in, I was laughing out loud when I read them. So, folks, really appreciate any feedback from you out there. But some of you, were over and above the Call of Duty this week. So I got a few of those, Bill. We're going to start out. We're going to start out with one of my favorites, It's no surprise that it comes from one of my favorite places in the world, Australia.
An Aussie, eh?
Yeah, that's from Oz. This comes in from Teresa and her son Eli.
All right.
And she says, love the show. Listen every week without fail since I discovered it. The way you guys talk to each other flows like a normal everyday conversation, not forced or scripted. And I'll pause there. Believe me, folks, there's nothing about this that's scripted. So back to the email. She says, my son Eli wanted me to tell you that the super creepy Black-Eyed Children episode was his favorite.
Wow.
And he says, the way Kevin spoke in that slow, deadpan voice really creeped him out.
We just want to talk to you.
We just want to talk to you. No reason to be alarmed. Can you open the door?
Please?
Please? and then they write, Bill said he'd be jacking those two little bastards. Well, that had us all laughing. When we go, I told you, Bill, it's my favorite, I think. When we go into the bush, my kids always remind me to carry more gun than you think you're going to need. She says, we live in Australia, and the only guns we own are Nerf guns, and we keep losing the bullets. Which, by the way, Teresa and Eli, like, I got some serious automatic Nerf guns around here in the house, and I'm always losing those darts, too.
Yeah. Let me tell you something, Eli. If I saw those little creeps in the camera, I'd tell them, hold on, I'll be right down.
Don't worry. We're not going to hurt you. Just let us in.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to hurt you.
So they talk about keep losing the Nerf bullets. So she writes, so if we ever see a Yowie, I think we would be close to breaking Usain Bolt's world record running away from it. Anyway, thanks for reading the letter from Eli and Teresa. Hey, Eli and Teresa, fantastic. I don't know, Bill. Maybe you might have to send them an autographed copy of a book. You know, like the one I don't have.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I
hey,
mean,
you know what, though?
Teresa
you know
and Eli,
what?
I would say send me your address and I'd send you an autographed copy, but I don't have any.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so you know what? In the middle of this mail segment, Kev, what do you say we have a little giveaway?
All right.
All right, we haven't done one in a while.
We haven't.
And so what's the criteria going to be for this autograph book? What do you say we should request?
I think the most creative, funny, and reflective letter on one of our episodes. What you liked about it, what you thought was funny, and then make Bill and I laugh.
Okay, and then we will read it. That particular email, we'll read it in our listener mail segment and announce that individual as the winner.
Exactly.
Okay,
it needs good entertainment value, and it needs good evidence that, like, you're listening to us. Like, I mean, Teresa and Eli, when Bill talked about jacking those two little bastards, obviously they were listening, because I'm like, all right, I believe Bill said that.
And even if I didn't, make me believe that I did.
I know. I'm going to give you full credit for it, even if you didn't say it.
All right, so that's it. You heard Kevin's instructions. It's an autograph book contest. Do what Kevin said. Send us the emails. We'll share them and read them, and it's got to make us laugh.
Yeah.
All right.
If you give us a crappy one, don't be surprised if all of a sudden you get alerted by your Ring doorbell and you see a couple of kids out there saying, "We would just like to come in and use your telephone. Don't be worried."
Yeah. I understand you have an autographed copy of W.J. Sheehan's book. We just like to see it.
We just want to touch it.
Okay, Kev. So that's it. Contest underway.
Awesome.
What else we got?
But thank you, Teresa and Eli. That's fantastic. All right, this one comes in from Ashley in Salt Lake City, Utah. And Ashley, you had me with the subject, Skinwalker. So Ashley writes, "Hey guys, I live in Salt Lake City. I only started listening to your podcast a few months ago, and I very much enjoy listening to you too." That's TWO. I love the brotherly bond y'all have. See, y'all, that's for me, Bill.
Y'all.
All y'all would be all of you. Anyway, only recently I've been quite obsessed with Bigfoot, and to be quite honest, my husband is annoyed by my babbling. But anyways, I'm writing to tell you about a skinwalker experience that I had 12 to 13 years ago when I lived in a small town outside of Farmington, New Mexico, in Aztec. And she writes, "My cousin and I used to take late-night drives over to a place called Aztec Ruins." She says, Google it. It's a pretty cool place that people come to see, where people come to see what the early Native Americans had built out of mud and ruins. Well, this night was a little different than usual, as we had taken a friend with us over to the ruins to go smoke some greenery. While we were pulling in, I thought I saw something white off to the right of the car. We kept on driving in, and we parked, and then we decided to turn our headlights off because we didn't want to be seen. We had been parked about 30 minutes or so, and I saw something pale white out of the corner of my eye. I hurried and yelled for my cousin to turn the headlights on. As soon as they turned them on, a white figure was standing in front of the car maybe 2 feet away. It had luminescent skin that you could see right through. Its hair was long and white, and its eyes glowed red.
Wow.
I looked down for a second to grab my camera phone, and it was gone when I looked back up. Just vanished. My cousin said he hadn't taken his eyes off it, and it materialized or dematerialized into thin air as if it was never there. To this day, I don't talk about it very often, and not with just anyone. I know you have done an episode on them, so you probably won't post this, but I thought you might want to hear my experience. The event still haunts me, those glowing red eyes.
Yeah.
Of course we'll post. Of course we'll post your mail. This is pretty cool. You saw a skinwalker.
Yeah, I spoke to her on the phone, Kev.
Ah, cool.
And she sounded legit to me. And I'll tell you something, when you see something like this, it changes you. It doesn't matter if anybody believes you or not. It changes you personally and your outlook on a lot of different things, Everything kind of gets flipped around in a moment,
No doubt about it.
By the way, have you been keeping track of the new episodes of Skinwalker Ranch?
I have been.
Boy, that place is freaking...
There's no doubt about it. What a creep fest that place is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just everything. It's like a salad of freaking supernatural happenings,
Yeah, I mean, the last episode I saw was when, I just can't think of his name, the rocket scientist dude from NASA. What's his name, Bill? You got it at the tip of your tongue?
I had it for a second and I lost it.
You know who I'm talking about. But he had to go in that metal silo to get away from the frequencies that were making him sick, right? Holy cow.
Yeah, he knew the silo would shield him.
Yeah, if that was what was making him sick. And sure enough, he goes in there for like a minute and feels better.
Right. And he's an Alabama boy. And I'm sure he was working with the space industry down there around Huntsville.
Oh, yeah.
They have a big presence down there. I don't know if it's NASA, but rocketry.
Oh, yeah. That's where, the early rocketry guys from Germany, they were there in Huntsville.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You're talking Von Braun and them?
Redstone Arsenal. Von Braun and those cats were, a lot of them were down there, and it's still a hotbed of rocketry.
Right. Well, they started something there and created a presence, and why leave? We're already here.
Yeah. I mean, they have the coolest thing, folks. If you haven't been down there, I'll give Huntsville, Alabama, a little plug. They got a Saturn V rocket, right? The monster that sent the astronauts to the moon multiple times, the Apollo rocket. They have 2 of them there. One is standing on its tail, and you can see it when you're driving into the city from outside, right? However many stories high this thing is. It's like a tall building. And then they have another one in the museum laying on its side. Wow. So you can walk around it, Bill. And this thing is unbelievable. And they have it separated by stage. So you can see how it broke away. Maybe 10 feet between each stage, laying on its side inside of this building.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow. I wonder, do you think they created that one just as a mock-up? Because
no, it's a real thing. So it's one of the... it's definitely a real rocket, one that didn't get launched.
Oh, so that's it. It was one that didn't go up.
Right.
Wow. That's freaking incredible.
Super cool.
All righty. What else?
By the way, we talk about brave folks with these Bigfoot encounters. Those folks that sat on the top of those Apollo rockets, holy cow.
Yeah, I can't imagine that,
You see how big it is, and then you see how small that capsule was. Oh,
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
that the
and then-
modern astronauts aren't as brave, by the way. Like
Yeah.
either
No,
way,
well,
but back then, holy cow!
it's experimental, and anything experimental can go haywire.
You got that right. All right, Bill. Our last letter comes in from Chad in Missouri. Chad writes,
Interesting.
"Greetings and salutations from Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, home state of the Momo." That's right, folks, the Missouri Monster.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. And Chad writes, "I just wanted to congratulate you both on 100+ episodes. It is very cool to be here since episode 1 and hear the podcast grow in leaps and bounds. I especially like listening to the listener mail from other countries and learning their folklore. Absolutely fantastic." And now, Bill, we get to the Q&A section of Chad's email. He says, "Mr. WJ, a question. What was the encounter you first heard that made you go, 'Oh, wow, I got to document this,' and thus writing Volume 1?
Yeah, well, that's pretty easy. That was the Chapter 1 of Volume 1, which I called the Michigan Upper Peninsula Encounter. And, Kev, that was a hair-raising freak show with that pickup truck he called Littlefoot and
Oh, yeah.
the truck getting destroyed, and it was multiple sightings, and the guy firing shots through the side of the tent. I mean, that was freaking nuts, man. But and of course,
a lot of creepy encounters up there in the Upper Peninsula. Everything from Dog Man to the Hairy Man.
yeah, and I've been in touch with different people up there through the years, and these people basically are saying, yeah, that creature is up there. My relatives, me. So these things are around up there, and not everything is like the encounter in Chapter 1, but there's not a lot of people up there, and some of those people are seeing the Bigfoot. Well, it's pretty crazy.
Very cool. So good answer there for Chad. Now Chad asked me a question. Mr. KJ, when the subject of doing a podcast came about, how much convincing did WJ take to get you on board? And I'm like, hey, let me tell you, Chad, and everybody else, he's still trying to convince me every week to get on board. I'm not sure I'm on board, Chad.
Ay.
And then he goes on, and he says, and with like 20 commas, Mr. World Traveler, we're all family here. You can tell us your 007, Kevin, or whatever your real name is. So, ding, 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 ding. So, yeah, Chad, if you do Google Kevin Sheehan, you will notice if your name is Sheehan, Kevin is most likely going to be your first name. So you'll never know. But I have traveled a lot of places, and I will continue to travel a lot of places. But awesome email. And Chad finishes up by saying, thank you, gentlemen, for your contribution to the Sasquatch community, and keep up the good work and those great podcasts coming. And he says, good day, gentlemen, and may God shine his everlasting light on you and yours. Well, thank you, Chad. That's always a nice way to end. And folks out there, thank you so much for those 5-star reviews. Keep them coming. It's virtually the only way that we attract new listeners to the podcast. And by having new listeners, we're able to stay on track, stay on schedule with weekly podcasts, and continue to improve the quality of the podcast. So thank you very much.
Yeah, that's awesome. And folks, remember, when you buy books, whether audio, paperback, ebooks, you're helping to support what we do here. So don't be shy. Go out there, read them to the kids around the campfire, give them as gifts. Do what you can to help us out, and it's greatly appreciated. And remember, if you happen to be wandering around the Aztec ruins in New Mexico, it's advisable to always carry more gun than you think you're gonna need. Sleep tight.